Okay, so I got a little caffeinated there in my last video, but what I was saying is I put it in the notes on the sidebar, but what I was saying before I got cut off by the time was that the fact that the Japanese language texts go over the differences between choice of words between sexes is actually more convenient because there's a lot of guesswork with it in English. People say, oh, English is a language based on equality. That's why we've taken out the archaic form of you, which is thou. Everybody's supposed to be equal, but the fact is that there is a separate choice of words between men and women. And for example, if you take a business course or you read a few articles, they'll tell you not to use girly speech when you're making a presentation if you want to be taken seriously at a company. So there is a difference between masculine and feminine speech in English and probably in every language. So, yeah, the only advantage is that Japanese takes the guesswork out of it. Moving right along. So, we got onto the copula. We have to be in English is da in the Japanese dictionary, and as a student, you're always going to use des, except, well, it's important that you understand the word gozaimasu. You may have heard it before. You hear people say arigato gozaimasu and ohayo gozaimasu. This is the subservient or humble form, or what they also call super polite. And it's part of set phrases. You always say ohayo gozaimasu. You never say ohayo desu. It's just, that's not how you say good morning. Also, ohayo gozaimasu, arigatou gozaimasu. You also don't say arigatou desu. You can say arigatou and just leave it at that. And ari is the noun form of aru, to have. Ga is a marker, and I'll get into this. I have to get into this fairly soon, actually. You'll often hear people say things like, anata ga suki desu, with a ga following anata. Or, watashi wa genki desu, and that's a wa. So, those are markers. They have no intrinsic meaning on their own. They mark grammatically what the use of the preceding word was. So, watashi wa genki desu, I becomes the subject. I am feeling good, thank you. Watashi genki desu is also used. You're dropping the wa when you say that, watashi genki desu. So that's used casually. You're still being polite, but dropping the wa leaves your language vague. So you want to speak properly until you form an in-group, which takes, let me tell you, a long-ass time to form an in-group with a Japanese person, to develop the close kind of friendship that we just want to jump into in the United States. And it took me months with my first student before we could really say we were close, and and you really like it's gradual, but then you really notice the difference, and it's good. It's great because I remember, you know, one of my students was nursing her baby, And so if the baby got hungry during a lesson, she'd go off into the other room. But after a while, when she got comfortable with me, I remember one time, you know, it's just like the baby was hungry and she just whipped off her top and started nursing. I thought it was adorable. It's like, oh, okay, she's comfortable around me now. That's great. Because, and that's another thing is the Japanese culture doesn't have the stigma regarding the human body that the West does. They still have public baths, you know, and even that's why you'll see a lot of nudity in the cartoons. Crayon Shin-chan is known for pulling off his pants all the time, and they draw his little wee-wee. And, you know, Americans are like, oh my god. But, you know, it's just, it's not a big deal. It's like, okay, it's a naked kid. I've seen a million of those. So, and ga likewise, getting back onto the subject, is a topic marker. It's what you're talking about. It's not necessarily the subject. For example, anata ga suki desu. Anata, you, is the person you're talking about, but you're the subject. You're the one doing the liking. Anata ga suki desu means I like you, or it also means I love you, depending on how you want to use it. So, for example, you can also say ringo ga suki desu. I like apples. You're talking about the apple. It's the subject. I'm sorry, it's the topic. And that's why they call ga the topic marker. Because the apples don't do the liking. You like the apples. But since the apples are what is being talked about, you use ga. Ga is also used for dependent clauses, and we're obviously not getting into that yet. So, gozaimasu is the very formal way of saying desu, or to be. So when you say ohayo gozaimasu, what you're saying is hayai is early. So when you call it ohayo, it is the early. So what you're saying is it is the early. That's how we say good morning in Japanese. So that is ohayo gozaimasu. Arigatou gozaimasu. Ari, I was going to get back to that. Ari, as I said before, is the noun version of the dictionary form aru, to have. Ga is your marker. To, there's a lot of meanings for to, but in this case it means it's rare. So having is rare. Gozaimasu is the to be. So arigatou gozaimasu. What you have is rare. In other words, if you're being considerate, if you open the door for someone, if you do them a favor and they say, arigatou gozaimasu, the literal meaning of that is like, this is so rare. And your answer is, yeah. Like, oh no, that's not the case. So if someone thanks you, you say, oh no. Yeah. So, and getting into anime, if you've watched Ruroni Kenshin, a lot of Japanese characters have linguistic freaks that sort of identify them, and Ken in Ruroni Kenshin, he always says de gozaru, and he's using the gruff form of the humble verb. So de gozaru is the dictionary form or the masculine form of gozaimasu. So because he is a very humble and subservient personality, He says, "De gozaru."